Very good afternoon, guys, everyone. Thanks for joining today's session. We will get started with today's session. Today, we will be talking about AWS storage services. So, last time we discussed about EC2 instances, right? So, now we will discuss about storage services. Hope you are able to see my screen.
Yes, Prem.
Yes, Prem.
Yeah. Okay, storage. So, storage, there are many types of storages available. If you take your normal computer, there are different ways your files are stored. So basically in the networking world there are three types of storages. One is block storage. Block storage is that is extremely fast, so this is compared to your RAM, so that is which is physically attached to your CPU. So since they two are together, it is extremely fast. This is the data stored in the form of large volumes. So we call it, that's why it's called blocks, and accessed by the operating system as mounted drive volume. So basically, it is accessed by your operating system directly, and it is the most fastest thing. And you can compare that to C drive or D drive on your computer. It's not only RAM; it's anything that is physically attached to you. Your thing is a block. Okay. And file. So anything stored on this disks as a hierarchical structure, any data that you are accessing, okay, so that is a file storage. So you can consider a folder within a drive or a network folder. A better example will be like you have in our company, if we are all connected to one particular server where files are shared, we can access that shared server and access the files. So in my earlier company we used to have shared folders like that. We will not have everything on on our machine. We can access a network drive where files will be shared, and you can just go access that and take files from there for your projects. So that is kind of a file storage. Hope you also would have used that. Or if you are connected, if you have multiple machines in your house and it is all connected through a LAN network, right? You can access one file from another computer and all. So this is all an example of file storage. Object is data stored in the cloud, accessed via internet. So this is any data that you store uh, outside, like your Google Photos. That's the data that you are accessing through internet. So that's stored as an object. So any Dropbox or Google Drive, all these are object storage services. Similarly, AWS provides S3. Okay. So these are the three different file types. So the difference or comparison, if you see, block is, since it is attached inside your system, it is extremely fast. And file storage, since it may have to travel to another network, another machine, or so another server, it will be moderate speed. And object retrieval from cloud, that will be slower than the file retrieval which is connected. Okay. So this is the broader three types of storage things we have, and we will see how AWS provides them. So AWS storage options, if you see what kind of storages it provides. For block storage, it provides something called elastic block store. We have seen that in the last session. EC2 instances, they are connected with EBS as a volume. So this volume will be, every time you create an EC2 instance, it will ask you how much EBS store you want. Okay, so you will say 20 GB, 30 GB, or whatever you want, and that will be enabled and provisioned with your EC2 instance. So that will be like a hard drive attached to your CPU. That is EBS. EFS is elastic file storage. So similar to the file access, like from your EC2 instance, you don't have this particular file available for you for inside your EBS. Let's say there is a situation, one file has to be shared across multiple EC2 instances. You have 10 EC2 instances running, and you want to access one file which is common to all. Okay, so you cannot keep replicating that in each EC2 instance, right? So updating in one place is not going to be sent to the other EC2 instance. So we want to have a shared folder where all these files can, all these EC2 instances can access one particular file and read and update. So they provide something called EFS, Elastic File Storage. So this is like a shared drive available for you, which you can connect from your EC2 instance, take the file, put the file back again, and so on. Object. So to store it in the cloud, this is S3 is like, any user is uploading files to the cloud storage. So you are having an application, and your application is going to deliver some files to your user through the web page, or it is going to user is going to upload some files to you. So S3 is a better place to do that. So your EC2 instance can access files either from the block storage, or from the EFS, or from the S3, wherever you want you can access. So only thing is these are different options available for us, so that we can make use of them based on our use case. So what is the use case? We will go for a EBS, uh, right? So the use case will be, this is a file that is always needed for my EC2 instance to run. Always needed. Uh, for example, your environment file. Okay, let's say your environment file will always be accessed when you are starting your application. So you cannot keep that somewhere in EFS or S3. Keeping it in your EBS is the fastest way to access that. EFS use case, let's say we have, auto scaled our applications to handle a lot of traffic. Let's say 10 instances of the same application is running, 10 different EC2 instances running, serving the same application. They all need to have access to one common file. So in that case, go for EFS, so that you don't have to replicate that in all, each of these two instances. Yes, three use cases, as I said, delivering any images, video files, anything that you don't want to put it in your block storage or file storage, huge files, go for S3. The cost also will be varying. I mean, EBS, you will have a limited store, right? Your 20 GB or 30 GB, whatever is needed for your EC2 instance to run. EFS, you can have, you can grow as much as you want, but the cost is high because it is kind of, connected server to you. S3 is very cheap, and you can use it for any file size. So that is a cheaper option for larger files. You cannot store larger files in EBS or EFS, which will be EBS. It is not possible. EFS, it will be costlier. Don't go there. So use S3. So these are, based on the use case, you need to determine where you can store your files. Any questions on this?
Regarding EFS,
Mhm.
hi. Regarding EFS, whether the multiple, you said that multiple instances would be there, so we can share it. So
Mhm.
let's say a DB application is hosted in, it should be hosted in multiple places. Like let's say an SQL DB is been used for my application, so I should host it in all the different application, or it will be taken care. I mean, how the data sharing will be handled in this case. Let's say I updated a record of an employee. Will it automatically update in all the instances?
Good question. So this is, database is different. Okay, database is a separate thing. We are talking about only file storage. Okay, when we say database, it is like, when you are dealing with records, inside a database, you are calling a MySQL database or a PostgreSQL, or MongoDB, anything. You deal with records, right? So they are specifically database services are available which you will be using. We are not talking about that. We are talking about files. Okay, any file that you want to access, like it can be a you name any type of file. Okay, anything is a file. Whatever you save as a document is a file. Your JavaScript code is a file. You see as HTML page is a file, right? So all these things are files. So in this case, let's say an example I will give you. Um, your application is going to need a JavaScript file. Okay, let's take it as an example. This JavaScript file is kind of, you don't want to store it in the EBS. It's a common file that will be shared across multiple applications. Okay, or multiple EC2 instances. So each EC2 instance is running separately, and all of them need one common JavaScript file, which is a kind of another application or something that you want to provide. So you don't every time this JavaScript file changes, right? Uh, in case all 10 instances need that, you will have to deploy that file to all 10 instances, which is not needed. Which you can do, but a better way is to keep that in EFS. So once you keep that in EFS, that is available for all 10 instances at the same time. So anytime they want to read, they will read that, and the file, the newer version of the file will be available, and they can take it. So that is, consider 10 people standing and asking a file from one person. One person is actually serving the same file to all 10 people. That's how it is.
It is not 10 different storage. It's about
Yes.
10 user accessing single
Yes.
file.
Yes. Yes.
Okay, so
Yes.
EFS is about 10 users accessing a single file. So it would be stored in only one location.
Yes. Yes. Yes.
Okay.
So
So
EFS is a
consider
use case for that. You want to have one file that is common for multiple instances, you keep it in EFS. If you have your file that is needed only for one instance, keep it in the EBS, because that is the fastest one.
okay. So can you give me an example in this case of EBS that would be comparing with the same use case kind of thing, like 10 users or single user?
Yeah. So let's say your environment file is a file basically, right? That you want to use every time your application gets started. So you will put that in the EBS, right? And you don't want to put that in the EFS because it may not be needed for others. This environment file is specific to your EC2 instance and your application. So you keep it there only. That is not available for others. The idea is, if a file is available within EBS, other EC2 instances cannot access except for the one that is connected to the EBS. Okay. But EFS, anybody can connect and access the file. Okay.
Okay.
And S3 is kind of a cloud storage outside the servers. So you will have to use it, access it through internet. EBS and
Okay.
EFS, you don't need internet. EBS, it's inside the machine. EFS is connected through, wire connection is there. You can assume that there is a wire connection between them. You don't need internet. It is within the same
LAN
VPC.
network.
Yeah,
Okay.
LAN or anything.
Okay, got it. So within an application to application, we can use EBS. When it comes for multiple application, we can go for EFS.
Yeah.
Okay, got it. Thank you.
Okay. Thanks for your questions. Good question. Yeah. So we'll see more about the EBS. So EBS is Elastic Block Store. EBS volumes are created and attached to EC2 instances. So as we said, when we are creating an EC2 instance, you will also allocate a volume, that is EBS. EBS volume serves like a hard disk to a computer. So it is like your hard disk. So they are mounted, connected to EC2 on system boot. Whenever the EC2 instance is booted, it's automatically connected to the EBS. Once attached, you can use them in any way you want. It is, just like how you are using your hardware, you can use it any way you want. And another important point to note about EBS is EBS volume should be on the same availability zone as the EC2 instance. So you cannot have a EC2 instance in availability zone A and have your EBS put in the availability zone B. That is not possible. It has to be in the same availability zone. Availability zone, as we were telling before, you can consider that like a city. Okay, if your VPC or subnet is a state, availability zone is like a city. So if your EC2 instance is running in Coimbatore, you will keep your EBS also in Coimbatore because they are connected through wire. Okay. So few more points about EBS. There can be more than one EBS volume attached to an EC2 instance. So basically, you can have more than one EBS volume attached to a EC2 instance. Okay. But you cannot share one EBS with multiple EC2 instances. That is the difference. Okay. For which you will use EFS. So even though you can have more, there will be only one of them that has a root volume. Like, you can have C drive, D drive, E drive, F drive, whatever drive you can keep on adding. But only C drive will be a root drive, right? Boot directory. So the same example fits here. Only one of them will be a root volume. By default, the root volume is deleted when the EC2 instance is deleted. So if you are deleting a EC2 instance, automatically by default, your connected root volume, that is EBS, is also deleted. But we can modify that. We can say that, okay, don't delete my EBS instance. Even if the EC2 instance gets deleted, I may be using it later and connect it to another EBS volume. Okay. Others are called data volumes. So the first, the root one, that is the only one that is connected is root. The others are called data volumes. It is like, because you are just going to access the data, it is not going to work for you to run your operating system at all. They're automatically replicated to protect you from failures. So designed availability is 99.999 percentage. Though they are in the same availability zone, it does not necessary that they are in the same underlying hardware. So it is not necessary that they are in the same hardware. It is just, they have to be in the same availability zone. AWS takes care of connecting them as needed. Any questions here? Okay.
Prem, only one question. So you said
Yes.
to prevent the failures and make a recovery, so it is automatically got replicated, right?
Yeah.
So that replication factor, it is like, are we determining or are we going to configure it will automatic?
They have a minimum replication, but you can provision, if you want more than that.
Okay, okay.
Only via EC2 only we can able to get the data from EBS access, right?
Only from EC2 instance, you can get data from EBS volumes. Yes.
Then, so handling the DB will be, we have to put it in EBS, right? EBS
Come again, handling
databases. So we have to put it in EBS or EC2.
database.
Yeah.
Database is kind of a application. Any
Hmm.
database you take, that is an
Yeah.
application. Until end of the day, that is again one application that stores data somewhere within its hard drive and delivers you the data based on the API request that you are making. Okay, so databases are stored in or are created in a server. What is a server? A
EC2.
EC2 instance.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you have an RDS, relational database, okay, uh, there you, let's say you are hosting a SQL MySQL database, right? So that will be hosted in a EC2 instance, and it will have its attached EBS volume where it will store its data. Okay,
Can we equate that EBS with our drive, D drive, C drive? So,
how will you replace that? You
no,
cannot.
not replacing. So can
Ah,
we consider it like an
yes, absolutely. You should consider EBS like your, in your laptop. If you have C drive is your root volume. D, E, F, whatever you call. that will also that will all be data volumes.
Okay, that's my doubt. So can we put my database in EBS and install it using connecting to that EC2? I can able to do
You should install your database in a EC2 instance,
EC2.
because database is actually an application
Yes.
that should run. So it needs a compute. So you will run that in EC2. The data will be stored automatically in your EBS connected to your EC2.
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So another point. So let's say at any point of time, the EBS volume can be attached only to one instance. So you can attach a EBS volume to only one instance at any point of time, but you can, detach and attach it to another EC2 instance as you want. There is an exception with an option. There is one option, they have multi-attach EBS. So there are conditions and constraints involved. It is an advanced topic. So it is, every time they will start with constraints. Let's say, an EBS can be attached only to EC2. That is the in the later versions they will provide you options to attach to other things also. So that way, multi-attach EBS is also an option now. But that's kind of many constraints are involved, which we will have to read the documentation, how and when we can use it. So we will not go into that as in detail. That's an advanced topic. Okay. So if you want to kind of retain your EBS volume and move it to another EC2 instance, you can do that. So this happens many times. Let's say you have a server running, you have your application data, everything is stored in the EBS volume attached to it. Okay, for some reason your server, I mean the EC2 instance alone, you want to kill that and create a new EC2 instance. Okay, but you don't want to lose the data that you are using, in the EBS volume. So what you can do is you can detach that EBS volume from the EC2 instance and create a new EC2 instance and attach that again to the EC2 instance, so that you have your server is changed, but all your data that the server was relying on is still available for you through the same EBS. So that's the idea. But that can go only within that availability zone. You cannot move it out of an availability zone. Okay. So there are two types of storages available in the EBS: SSD and hard disk drive. So SSD is high performance, HDD is low compared to SDD, and SSD is suitable for transactional workloads, like input output operations. So if you have a lot of transactions, then SSD is good. If you want fast throughput, then bytes per second, how many data can transfer between in a second, that is HDD is better. SDD is always higher cost than HDD. Can be used as a root volume. HDD cannot be used as a root volume. Any questions? So this can be used as a data volume only. So here is the kind of comparison between SDD. Within SDD there are different types. So general purpose and input output provisioned type. So this is they call it there are the names, you don't have to worry. This type is called GP2, GP3. A lot of things will be there, and IO2, 3, 4 will be there. Basically, if you see the difference, general purpose is kind of a balanced price and performance. Your price is little lower than the IOPS, but it's you will have a balanced performance. But IOPS is high performance, and it will also be high priced. Volume size, it can go from 1 to 16 TB. This can go from 4 to 16 GB TB. Durability, uh, these numbers you don't have to worry, but just make sure This is more durable than this by around 0.099%. Maximum input output operations per second 16,000. This is 64,000, 4 times better than this. Throughput, this is 250 Mbps, this is 1000 Mbps. These numbers might have changed by now. Uh, uh, Please refer to the actual documentation, but nobody's going to ask the numbers. You just have to know that this is better than this. Latency, so it's a single digit millisecond. This is also single digit. Latency is how much time it takes to get the first byte. That is the latency. Multi-attach, this one general purpose cannot go for multi-attach, but this can go for multi-attach, which is newer or a later feature. Any questions? Okay. So in HDD, there are again throughput optimized and cold HDD. Usually, cold HDD is kind of infrequent access. You don't need to access that too much. So that case you can go. Again, throughput optimized is better for frequent access. This is low cost and it is optimized. This will be further low cost than this, and it is infrequent access. So again, the comparison volume size is almost the same, durability is the same. Throughput, since this is throughput optimized, this has a better IOPS and throughput. This is twice that of the cold. Use cases. So big data, data warehousing, log processing. So these things you will be always be accessing data, right? So that cases you go for throughput optimized. Older data requiring fewer scans per day, so you will not be accessing frequently. You just need once in a while put that in the cold storage. Can it be multi-attached? No, because hard drives HDDs cannot do multi-attach. So this is with respect to EBS. Any questions? Next we will be talking about other file types, EFS and all.
Hi, Prem, sure. So
Yeah,
if I want to store very small types, file types or simple file types, I can still go the S3 itself, right? Just asking because it will be more costlier in this situation.
you can, it's all based on your use case. Okay,
Okay.
so
Suppose let's
S3,
say,
what is going to happen, it's going to take a few milliseconds to come. Okay,
okay,
depending on the file size it will be even more latency may be more. So
okay,
if your application can live with that, go for S3.
okay. Suppose if I say I'm running a gaming application which has a lot of graphic files and videos, and that can be stored in this EBS, and the user's profile images, let's say, for users who are playing the game, their profile images can be stored in S3, right? Yeah, just this
Correct.
is this if this is the scenario.
This example is correct, yes.
Okay.
Okay, okay, we will talk about EBS snapshots. So now we know about EBS. We will be talking about snapshots. Snapshots are nothing but copies. Okay. So there are. So what is a copy? So you create. Uh, Basically, you want to take backup of your EBS data every day, right? So you can provision to take backup. Automatically, AWS will take backups of your EBS on the scheduled time. You can provision to say, I want to take a backup every night at 11 p.m. And I want that to be retained for 30 days, 60 days, 90 days, 1 year, whatever you can say. Okay. So what it will do is it will take a snapshot of it. Snapshot means it will convert that to a object file. So you cannot directly access that. You will have to retrieve that to a EBS again if you want to access. That's a snapshot. So it will just zip it. You can assume that it is going to zip the EBS into a zip file, and just going to that's going to be called as a snapshot, and it will put it in the S3 bucket, because that is the lowest storage option. Automatically, it will create a bucket for you in the S3, and it will put it there. So there are two ways you can take the backup. It can be a full copy every day, or you can go for an incremental copy. So you take the full copy the first time. Every day you just keep adding the incremental data as a snapshot. So your data consumption will be less. Every day it's just going to be the additional data that is coming in will be created and put into snapshots. So when you want to retrieve the data, everything put together, you can get it back. So that is the concept of snapshots. So from the snapshots, why we create snapshots? In case something goes wrong, we shut down the server, and we want to retrieve the stored information, or we want to go back to a version and take a new EBS volume. So that is where we can use this. Or if you want to replicate your EC2 instance to another availability zone, um, but you want to use the same EBS volume. As we know, EBS volumes cannot be used or detached and attached to another availability zone. So the use case here is you are going to have your same EC2 instance replicated in another availability zone. You want the same EBS volume, so you can take a snapshot that is going to S3. So S3 is like common, right? So it's a common bucket, and you can retrieve it anywhere. So another availability zone, you are just going to retrieve a snapshot from that and create a new volume out of that. So your EBS that was running in availability zone 1 is now available to you as a copy in another availability zone. So this is how you can. So there will be questions like if you want to provision multi availability zone for your EC2 instance, and you want to use the same EBS volume, how will you do that? Options will be copy EBS from AZ1 to AZ2, or some other options. And the right option will be EBS has to be taken as a snapshot, and use the snapshot to create a copy in another availability zone. Okay. Okay. So there is another way you can take snapshots. You can combine the EC2 instance and your EBS volume and create a snapshot, and you can create an AMI. AMI means Amazon
Prem,
Machine Image. AMI is again from the snapshots you can create AMIs. AMI is kind of a snapshot that will be created with the EC2 instance and the EBS. So you can create a AMI, and you can use that to create another replica of this from in another availability zone. So you can do EC2 and EBS from the AMI. So it is just like taking an EC2 instance and connected EBS, creating a snapshot. From the snapshot, create an AMI, and from the AMI you know create EC2 and EBS. Okay, EBS data lifecycle manager. So the data lifecycle manager for EBS can do like you can automate creation, retention, and deletion of EBS snapshots and EBS backed AMIs. Basically, as I said, you can provision when you want to create your backup, right? EBS snapshots. You can provision like every day I want to take, or every week I want to take. Retention is how long you want to retain that snapshot, because it is it's kind of think about it. If you have 20 GB of EBS and you take a snapshot every day without increment, every day 20 GB is going to be created, and that is going to be consumed in your S3 bucket. Even though you are just going to pay for the storage, that is going to keep on adding, and you will your uh, you know uh, bucket cost will be going very high. So it's, and you don't need all everyday backup, right? You only for 30 days or 60 days you would like to have. Otherwise, anything before that may not be needed at all. So you can delete that. You can create lifecycle manager and delete those snapshots. So you can set like after 60 days automatically delete it. It will delete. And this data lifecycle manager helps you protect valuable data by enforcing regular backup, create a standardized AMAs and refresh at regular intervals, retain backups for auditing and compliance purposes. So even though you don't need to create a backup, there are things like compliance purposes. You need to have backups. At least that will be mandate that you will have to have your backup for 90 days or 1 year. So it helps you create that and reduce storage cost by deleting outdated backups. So since you are going to delete based on the time you are setting, you will always probably if you are keeping it for 30 days, 20 into 30, 600 GB, always your storage will be 600 GB. You will not go beyond that, unless you are actually EC2 or EBS volume goes beyond that. Or if you are doing incremental, then that is again going to be very less. And create disaster recovery backup policies that backup data to isolated account. So you can also you can create policies. So you can say when something goes wrong in my EC2 instance, automatically you can set up like, okay, take the latest backup available and create a new instance, a new EBS volume, and keep it running. So that is kind of a disaster recovery that you will plan. And if you plan that, this helps you to achieve that. Okay. So there is one more type called instant store. So instant store is more like, you can call it RAM. I wouldn't call it RAM, but it is attached to your hardware itself. Okay. So EBS is kind of, though it is not in the though it is in the same availability zone, it is not in the same hard drive, right? Uh, so EC2 instances will be in a server, and the EBS volumes will be in the same availability zone, but maybe in a different server. But instant store are like, they will be available within your same hardware, the host server itself. So EBS volumes are attached over network. Instant stores are physically attached to the host. So this you will use when you want even faster access to your data. Instance stores are ephemeral. Data is lost when the instance store is powered down. So this is like, you can call it RAM. So when your server is down or shut off, whatever data that is stored in the instance store will be lost. But whatever is stored in the EBS will not be lost. You can reboot your system, data will be there in the EBS, but instance store is like RAM. If you reboot your EC2 instance, data stored there will be lost. Instant store provides faster access than EBS, useful in situations where extremely fast temporary data access is needed. So your application is running, in the middle it is processing a lot of data, it wants to store some data to complete the process. So in that case, go for instant store. So if your server is going to get down, then your application process also is lost. Whatever you have stored in the instance store is lost. So there's another type of storage that AWS provides for faster access. It is attached to the hardware itself. Okay, now we'll talk about EFS. EFS is kind of, you can, it is a
Just a
shared,
minute.
yeah.
Hello.
Yes.
Like EBS is basically for a environmental file kind of storage we are going to use for it. So why do we need an extra instance stuff? Like it is going to be within an application. So it is not why we need another instance in this case, because it is within the application, right? So Why need another instance that would bring us a faster result?
Yeah, so this is like go ahead, somebody wants to answer. Anybody? Correct. Okay. So consider a situation you are performing an operation, okay, using you are dealing with an Excel sheet, huge amount of data you have, and you are creating a lot of data from that. You are doing some analytics job, okay. So you are processing your data one by one, and you want to store that temporarily, and want to have a faster access within that application. So it's more than fraction of milliseconds faster you want, okay. So EBS, even though it is connected within your availability zone, it is sitting in a different server, and there will be a latency, okay. Instant store, instantly it is available for you, no delay, since because it is attached to your server. That data, whatever you have stored there, it is instantly available. Like what Shiva was telling about gaming. So for gaming, your data, the previous data that you are doing, has to be immediately available, so that you can do the next step, right? So whatever data you are getting in, the recent data, you should have it inside the instant store, where you can access immediately, right? Like the move that the opponent is currently doing, right? So that kind of information, if it is coming from EBS, then it will be uh, slower, okay. So based on the use cases again. So if you want to have latency which is a lot better than EFS, they provide you instant store which you can provision. It is not coming always with your EC2 instance. You should ask for it. You should provision an instant store which will be attached to your EC2 instance on the same server. Being in the same server or the hard drive, it's always going to be faster. If your use case needs that fast access, use it. Otherwise, you don't have to.
Okay, if that's the case, we have to have the application, let's say, Excel kind of stuff in instant store also, or it would be automatically installed and everything. Everything has
It
to
doesn't
be
need to install anything. It is just a
config. I
store.
mean,
No, it
okay,
is application is not going to run there. Application is going to still run in your EC2 instance. EC2 instance is going to have attached RAM to it through instance store. It is
okay,
an additional RAM, you can call.
okay, fine. Hmm.
Okay. Okay. EFS. Okay. EFS examples here. So uh, you can EFS, as I said, is a shared file service, right? So elastic file storage, it's shared. You can share it with any EC2 instances across any availability zones and across any VPCs. So this particular file storage can be accessed within the region, even from two different VPCs. VPCs, as I said, if you consider region as a state, no, region as a country. No, sorry. Your region is going to be like a state, and within that you will have a VPC, and then within that availability zone will be like a city. Okay. Region, you can call it east, south, north. VPC, let's say Tamil Nadu. Availability zone will be VPC. You can't call it a state like that, but it consists of availability zones within a region. Availability zone is like a city. The availability zone and region are physical locations. VPC is a virtual, connect. It's all virtual private network, private cloud network. Yeah. Okay. So this is accessible across your different VPCs also. That is what, and you can connect from one VPC to another VPC using VPC peering. We will be seeing that part of future things. What is VPC peering? but it's just a connection. These two things can be connected together, and through that you can access one file, access a EFS in another VPC also, which is not possible with EBS. So what is EFS store? It is one thing is it is only for Linux workloads. It is not. I believe currently they have extended for others. I'll have to check. But sometime back it was only for Linux workloads, and it is fully managed service providing NFS shared file system. Um, User need not worry about managing hardware, storage, updating hardware. It is a fully managed service, so AWS will manage its availability. You don't have to worry. So that's how they provide you, durability and availability of 11 nines and 99.99 percentage. Redundancy across multiple availability zones. So I mean, to make it available, always they make it redundant across availability zones. There is an option to choose single availability zone. That will be lower cost. So you want to take a risk that, okay, don't put it in multiple availability zones, just put it in one availability zone, and have redundancy there only. Fine, they will do that, and it will be a lower cost. But still, if that availability goes down, then you will not have access to that EBS volume. Sorry, EFS store. It's fully managed in AWS backs up. You don't have to worry about its backup process and all. EFS lifecycle management policies will you can set policies that if you want to how you want to manage your backups, when do you want to delete it and things like that, because every time, even though it manages the backups and all, it is you who is going to pay for that. So you can provision the lifecycle management policy to say whether you want that to be backed up or not, or when you want to be backed up, when you want to delete it, and when you want to retain it. Any questions? Okay. So then we'll go to S3, but I think in just 10 minutes, it will not be enough to talk about S3. We'll stop here. We'll open up for questions. We'll start S3 in our next session.
You said that number of instance can be like single, we can restrict to single. And can we have it as a two, or let's say I want to use two instance for it? How many instances can I select? That's also a question.
Your question is
In
maximum.
the EFS store, you said that we can configure a single instance, and we have to take that risk. If that is going down, then we have to
Availability zone.
check. Yeah, availability zone. This one. So this one. In that case, can I select two different zones? Is that like it has to be randomly selected, or can I select some zones?
Usually there will be 3 availability zones within
Okay.
every region. Okay. So you can choose to have 1 or 2 or 3.
Okay. Hmm.
Prem,
It's,
can we access this via our application? Like how we access S3?
yes.
Can I
So
connect from our application?
AWS, you can connect any service, you can connect from your application. So AWS SDK provides that
Okay.
facility. Like you connect to S3, you will just connect to every service has a client in Boto 3. Boto 3 is the SDK, Python SDK available for AWS. For other JavaScript and all is also there is available. So you can connect to any service.
Okay.
If I want to increase some additional storage, so what's the difference with the EFS and EBS?
So you want to add
Data
more.
can,
Okay.
yeah.
So basically, whenever you are provisioning, you will provision your EBS store. Let's say you will choose 20 GB, I want 30 GB, I want 80 GB, I want, depending on your workload. Okay. So in case if it is you want to expand that, you can automatically, without having a downtime, you can expand that. Okay. Or EBS, I don't know if it has to be stopped and uh, uh, detached and expanded. I can check that. Okay, but you can do that. It will be, either it is going to be stopped for a few seconds. Within that, it will be available, or I think it will, even without downtime, you can still expand it to, is what I think. EFS, you don't say anything. It is just a store. You are just going to pay for the file that you are storing and accessing. Only for the storage, you can store any number of files. You can access any number of times, but based on your access, you are going to pay. Okay, let's do a small quiz. Get the help of ChatGPT. So I'm saying I'm preparing for AWS Cloud Practitioner. Quiz me in EBS EFS Instance Store. Okay, first question it is asking us, which of the following best describes Amazon EBS? It is a distributed file system that can be mounted on several EC2 instances simultaneously. It provides persistent block storage volume for use with AWS EC2 instance. It is a temporary storage volume that is physically attached to a host computer for EC2 instances. It offers a managed relational database service for database backup. So what is the right answer?
Yeah, I think so.
A. யாரு தூக்குனா யாரு கவனிச்சான்னு கண்டுபிடிச்சிடலாம். So A says distributed file system. Distributed means what? It is available for multiple things. Several EC2 instances. Can we mount EBS on several EC2 instances? No.
No.
It can be mounted only on one EC2 instance. It provides persistent block storage. So what is EBS? Elastic block storage, right? So it provides
Yeah.
persistent block storage. So is C the right answer? Temporary storage volume that is physically attached. So what is physically attached?
Okay.
Which one in EBS, EFS, or other one we saw? Which is physically attached?
It's EBA.
Instant store.
Instant store, correct. It offers managed relational database. Does it any of these things provide the database service? No, database is different. So B is the right answer. Let's see. Correct. Okay, wow. Let's move on to the next one. What is a key feature of EFS? It is designed for use with EC2 for Windows Server instances only. It supports file storage only, not block storage. It is optimized for low latency transactional data. It automatically scales its capacity up and down as you add or remove files. What's your answer? It's a tricky one.
D.
I think it's a B.
D.
B.
B
Okay.
also is. B also is.
Eva, it
Let
is
me see.
designed for use with EC2 instances for Windows Server only. We have seen EFS specifically
Right.
said Linux server only. Okay, so Windows Server definitely not available. It is not only for Windows Server. A is ruled out. It is optimized for low latency transactional data. It's a file storage, so it is not transactional data. File storage is not transactional data. Automatically scales its capacity up and down as you add or remove files.
Yes.
Seems to be correct, but it is fully managed. You are not going to. It is just you are just going to put your file there. Okay, it is not going to scale up or scale down. It is always available. So I think B is the right one. Even I am not sure. Let's see. D. Okay, it automatically scales its capacity ups and down. Okay, EFS designed to provide simple, scalable, elastic. Okay, because we can add any number of things, I think it goes with scalability. It grows and shrinks automatically as you add or remove. So you only pay for the storage you use. That was a tricky question. Okay, let's do a. What is the characteristic of EC2 instance store? Data in an instance store persists even after the instance is terminated. Is it?
No.
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 No. Instance store provides block level storage that is physically attached to the host computer. Seems correct.
Yeah.
Correct.
Store volumes can be detached and reattached to another instance. Definitely not, because it is
No.
in the same
Same
instance.
instance.
Data is an instance store. Data in an instance store is automatically replicated across. Definitely not.
Multiple.
No.
No. It's a B.
So it's B.
It's B.
Correct. Okay. Let's do one more. Which of the following EC2 instance type is best suited for memory intensive application? Good question. Memory intensive, general purpose, compute optimized, memory optimized, storage optimized. This is asking about EC2 instance. Previous topic, not current thing. Okay. So I believe memory optimized, memory intensive application. I don't know. Or maybe D. So let's do C. Correct. Okay. So there is memory optimized type as well. Okay. So I think we are good. So keep you can continue checking your knowledge like this if you have time. Let's see in the next meeting, guys. Thank you. Thanks for joining. Bye.